Hello everybody, Matthew Barton here to interrupt this draft with a very important special guest. The one, the only, Sal Capaccio. Give it up for him. Hello, Sal. Again, pleasure to meet you. My name is Matthew. Thank you for joining us today. And so it is draft week, but at the same time, it is also, we are complete Buffalo Sabres heads right now. I saw that you were at the game last night. And do you want to kind of just talk about what the atmosphere was like last night at the Sabres game despite the loss?
Again, it was kind of a lot of the same through the first period. And then once Boston scored, you're like, okay, well, they came back last night, but you got to make sure, on Swayman, it's going to be really tough and just kind of waiting for something, waiting for something. And that something never materialized until it was kind of too late. And even by then, it wasn't quite as raucous because they were already down four. It was later in the game. It was
Yeah.
going to be tough. Once they got the second goal, it was a little interesting. The atmosphere is still awesome, though. Still great. Great to be back in the arena. And we know we're guaranteed a game five no matter what happens in Boston over the next two. And I expect it to be just the same, if not even louder and more hyped.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. And on TV, they showed a little statistic. It's the first calendar year since 2000 where there's been a Bills playoff game and a Sabres playoff game in the same year. So that's really awesome to see. And so it is an away game tomorrow. We have the game at 7, and then the draft is at 8. So what are your kind of plans to cover both your fandom and the NFL draft tomorrow night?
Well, I cover the Bills, so I'll be covering the NFL draft.
Okay, great.
So I'll be doing that. But I can guarantee you, inside the Bills media room, where I and 40 of my colleagues will be, maybe, they will have the hockey game on the TV. So in the Bills media room, they have the podium where Brandon Beane speaks, and then, you know, we have two TVs. It's a really nice setup. And generally, we put one TV on ESPN's draft, one on NFL Network's draft, or something like that. Or in cases of, if I remember right, back in the last few years, we put maybe NHL or NBA playoffs on the other TV, actually, now that I
Oh,
think about it. So this year will be no different. It'll just be the Sabres on one of the TVs. And most of the Buffalo media that's going to be there in some capacity covers the Sabres, maybe, or is it for an outlet at least that covers the Sabres, whether it's TV or print or radio. But we're there to cover the NFL draft. I mean, that's our job there, but and things like that. I'll be keeping an eye on it. I'll be joining in on WGR throughout the night. We'll have coverage. So we carry obviously Bills and Sabres and cover the draft and whatever. WGR is going to have the Sabres game starting at 7. The draft will be on WBEN. So I'll be on WBEN mostly, just kind of chiming in and out with them and talking about that. I think the game will be over by the time the Bills pick, though. The game
okay.
should end by 9:30 to 10 o'clock at the latest. The Bills won't pick until after 10 o'clock, as long as they stay at 26 and don't make some massive move up. So I think we can kind of have all bases covered here.
Yeah, and staying at 26 was something I wanted to talk about because I'm sure you've always been asked the question, who you got this draft pick. I just checked out the Man-Child show with Boy Green Digital, so shout out to them. And it looked like trading down seemed like the most reasonable option, or at least the ultimatum that you kind of had for the Bills. Um, So are you still holding strong for that selection at this moment, a day out?
You mean holding strong forward to trade down?
Yeah, it's trade down in the draft.
I mean, like the way I look at it is to me, that's the best scenario for the Bills. I just don't know if
Okay.
they'll be able to do it. I mean, everybody can want to do it, but what team is going to trade up given it's a kind of I think most people would consider a weaker draft, especially in the first round. I mean, a team would have to give you assets to go up and get a player that they might not have a first round grade on. And I think that's a tough ask. So yes, I think it's the best scenario. Yes, I think the Bills would love to do it. I don't think they'll find a dance partner unless Ty Simpson falls. It's got to be a quarterback.
Okay.
That's the only way I think a team would go into the first round to make that trade is to draft a quarterback. And I guess the only one would be Ty Simpson in that scenario. So yes, I am holding that is the best case scenario for the Bills. I just don't think it's really going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, because just going through some mock drafts, you really are right. It's that first kind of group of guys is the highlighted guys, and obviously through the draft, anyone can be a star, anyone could be good, but in terms of what we kind of know, that first little set of group of guys looks like the best. And through the offseason, we had some big signings like Chubb, Gardner Johnson, DJ Moore. Did that impact your idea of, maybe if we have the opportunity, we can step out of the round as well, other than just another team needing something?
Not really. A draft is about value.
Okay.
I think, you're just trying to get value. Like, I think that anytime you make an acquisition or you lose a player, it obviously changes maybe a little bit of your approach to how you want to approach the offseason. But, you don't want to react to, oh my God, what GMs will tell you, what Brandon Beane has said many times, and he's right, and other GMs have said this. Like, you don't want to overreact and reach just because you need a player at a position, right? Because that's how you get in trouble by taking a player who isn't worth the value. If you reach for a guy and take him in the first round as a third round talent just because you need the position, that's not really smart. The fact that they did, I think to your question, fill up some of those areas, maybe saying, okay, well, we're kind of okay there. Look, you still want to be able to, replenish your roster. I think it's more about value than anything. If the Bills get to 26 and there's a guy they're comfortable with 26, I don't think it matters that they traded for DJ Moore, signed Bradley Chubb. If that value is there and they have the guy, then I think that they would be fine with taking him. But I just question if the value would be there.
Okay, interesting. And at least one of my favorite parts of the draft, aside from obviously just hoping we get a star, is kind of a player just being memorable in a way. For me, Shaq Lawson's a memorable one. Ed Oliver, just, time and place. And I was wondering if there was a specific draft pick from the Bills through your time of reporting that you can kind of associate with a specific moment, either good or bad in your life.
Sure. I was living in Florida for a while before I moved back to Buffalo. I was in radio. I had left radio for a while. I was a high school football coach, a teacher, and I was doing some radio on the side in Florida, but I wasn't really in it full time. And my wife and I and some friends had gone to the ACC championship game in Tampa, and we watched Clemson against Georgia Tech. And I remember watching C.J. Spiller and saying, man, the Bills never get a guy like that. I wish they would draft a guy like C.J. Spiller. He'd be super exciting to have in Buffalo. Well, I was also a track and field coach at the time. And I had a big bet. The way they do it, they have these huge events on Friday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights in Florida, where they get like 20 schools that come to these events. And it's April, so it's warmer down there. So I remember the night of the draft, I was at a track meet. And my wife texted me, and I saw, and Twitter, social media was kind of in its infancy, but you had internet. And I remember getting on and seeing the Bills had drafted Spiller. My wife texted me right away, oh my God, they got that guy CJ Spiller we talked about when we were at the game, the ACC championship game. And it was really cool. And he was a Florida guy. He had grown up there, and he went, and he had gone to Clemson, but he was from the state of Florida. And then I literally moved up here back to Buffalo like shortly after that. I think CJ's rookie year actually was the year I came back up here, and got to know CJ really well. And it was a funny story we had shared too. We had some friends who had coached and played down there together. So kind of cool just to kind of think about, man, that's a guy I'd really think they should get or would love to, but not going to happen. And then suddenly it happened. And my wife was like, oh my God, did you see what just happened?
Nice. Yeah. It's a really nice way to kind of, look at the history of yourself as well. Okay. What was I doing when, EJ Manuel was drafted and so and so. So, and to see where we are now is also really great. One kind of another funny thing from our class is Professor Carnath, who, thank you to him for obviously putting this in order. He kind of just mentioned who wants to interview Sal Capaccio, and it was crickets. I was like, me, I would love to interview Sal Capaccio.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I don't know if
that's okay. I guess I got to step up my game.
Yeah. Because maybe just a lot of people haven't, grew up around here, listen to the radio. So I was super thrilled to hear of this opportunity and be able to chop it up with you about, Buffalo sports and the draft.
Yeah.
And I did have one NFL draft trivia question for you.
Okay.
We wanted to do some trivia just for the draft show as well. And the question is, what position has been picked the most with the first overall pick? Is it the wide receiver position, halfback, defensive end, or quarterback? And this dates back to, I think, about the 30s.
Okay, well, with the 30s, so not even the common draft.
Yeah.
So you're talking about even back in like the NFL before the AFL days,
Yep.
like before that. Ooh, okay, well, that's tough then, because if you're counting the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, and I do think running back would come into play here, halfback. But I think since the common draft started in the 70s, I would say quarterback, which would be my normal answer. I can't see wide receiver. I remember a few times where receivers were taken number one. Keyshawn Johnson, Terry Glenn, there were a few guys there. I think Keyshawn was number one. I got to go back and look, but there have been a few guys over the years. I'm going to say quarterback in the common draft era, so that'll be my answer. But it wouldn't surprise me it was halfback / running back going all the way back to when you say.
So very close. The answer from the entire draft is quarterback with 37 first pick selections. Halfback comes in at second with 21. And then, yeah, receiver only 4, defensive end 13.
But
So
I
that,
bet you halfback slash running back, most of those were taken before the like common draft era.
yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's been running backs taken number one, like John Carter in '96. There's been some guys, but I would say most running backs were taken like top first overall would be way back in the
Hmm.
day.
Yeah, that definitely was more, I guess, heavy back in the 30s, 40s, right
Yeah.
before that. So yeah, I think a lot of people kind of, turned their head at that question when we asked it in class. So that was a fun one. And I had a more of a sports journalism question for you as well. So
Okay.
we're kind of balancing both reporting on, just giving an update. This is the score. This is what happened last night. This is what we're doing. But there's also another aspect which I really enjoy is the, finding the story within the game or finding the story
Sure.
outside of that. And I was just wondering if you had any advice when seeking out sports stories outside of just, a recap or what to look for
Yes.
maybe.
Make connections with people, get to know people, and they'll be, willing to share stories with you and tell you about their lives and, make sure that you make a connection with them and tell them, hey, I'm really interested in your story. Tell me a little bit more about you. And I think people don't hear that enough. They just want their athletes a lot of times are too used to people just wanting to know about them as the athlete, maybe. And I think, showing an interest in them as human beings is important, but you have to make those connections to do that. One of the things that I do is, like, for example, this year you could do this when the Bills draft. When the Bills make a draft pick, for example, the Bills PR will come out to the media room and they'll give us the bio on the player, like a one sheet with a bio. And you can find it online too. They'll post it, but they'll give us the sheet, but it'll post it too. And I like to dig in. They always have little personal anecdotes. Grew up here, played this sport when he was a kid, played this musical instrument, favorite movie is this, ice cream. And I read that stuff. A lot of people don't. I'd say read that stuff. Get to know because those things become interesting questions. For example, I remember when Dorian Strong was drafted last year, and I'm reading, and his name happens to be Strong, which was super ironic because it said his dad was a world-class weightlifter and bodybuilder. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So we get him on a Zoom call, and I said, Dorian, tell me a little bit about your dad and your upbringing. I said, obviously, you know your way around a weight room, right? Being around your dad and what he's done. He's like, yeah. And then his dad, and he talked about his dad and growing up, bodybuilder, weightlift, maybe a preseason game. I see his dad walking, this big dude wearing the jersey. I'm like, you got to be Dorian Strong's dad, right? We started talking, but I would pay attention to that stuff, read that stuff, go in and dig into the bio a little bit and find out some really cool, funny stuff. Landon Jackson, I read last year. He gets drafted. Him and his wife, he's already married in college, and they have a microdoodle dog, and they're bringing the microdoodle to Buffalo, obviously. So, and then he loves talking about the microdoodle, right? I mean, those are little things that you can find because people give them, but a lot of times people don't care to look at it.
Yeah, and just by your description, it sounds like it could be almost a bridge for us as Buffalo Bills fans to find a player to connect with. Like, oh, I have a micro doodle, or I love bodybuilding. I'm a new
Yes.
Dorian Strong fan, or something like that. So that is
I
a
think it's great.
really
I'm a drummer personally, and
okay.
like over the years, I've seen guys would get drafted and they have a musical background, and I would connect that way and say, "Yeah, I'm a drummer. I see that you're a guitar player. You're a drummer." Something like that. And I used to do a TV show there were different co-hosts over the years, and one of them though was Eddie Yarborough, and we found out Eddie he played for the Bills for a couple of years. And we found out that Eddie like played the ukulele. So we literally brought in a little drum set and a ukulele and we started playing on the TV show
Nice.
together. It was super cool.
Wow. Yeah, that is something that I'm really looking forward to, as I continue on, just trying to really, instead of just, they had this many sacks, this many tackles, like who is this person? So
Yeah.
that's a really awesome
Yeah.
aspect.
If people who are in those jobs do their jobs the right way, the SID of a school, the AD of a school, the PR director of a team, all those people, if they're doing their job the right way, which they should, you'll have plenty of information at your fingertips to dig into.
Awesome. And I guess to wrap things up, something that just came up today that I had to just get your take on very quickly before we wrap up. Josh Allen is actually getting some flack for some reason about his, banging of the drum and chugging the beer, and almost people saying that he's some type of bad juju. And for me, I want to just let you know, I feel like if our starting quarterback can't be doing that at a Sabres game with getting hate, then something's wrong because that's what we need, win or lose. I don't know.
Well, I got a text about this today from a friend of mine who
Okay.
told me the same thing. I had no idea, but so I just saw this today too. And my response to him was, "Those people are sick and stupid." That's what I said to him. So if you could use that, whatever, that really wouldn't be like what I think more than anything though is, and I was just with my friend when I said that. What I really think though is that people just sometimes need a reason why their team lost,
Yeah.
and that seemed like an easy target. That's ridiculous to think though.
Yeah. So that's going to be exciting. We'll be looking at the game tomorrow night at 7 and the draft at tomorrow night at 8. And Sal, I guess I do want to ask, do you have any questions for, someone who was in your shoes countless years ago at this point?
Sure. My question for you is, like, what is your ultimate kind of goal? Do you want to do play-by-play, radio hosting, TV anchoring, studio work, print journalism? What is your ultimate kind of big picture goal?
Yeah, so coming into college, I was super honed in on specifically sports, actually. And then I joined the school newspaper. I learned about investigative journalism. I learned about,
Love it.
just covering things on campus. And recently this semester, I've been really almost addicted to making video content alongside print content. So
Yeah.
whether that's just touring the place that I'm writing about or documenting my experience at a sporting event. So I've really been enjoying, making an accompanying video with writing pieces. And I think, at least looking forward, I would love to either run a YouTube channel for a news outlet or a sports outlet and be able to kind of just do video journalism. That's really what I've been
Do you want,
interested
so
in.
do you want to be on camera and, talking on a mic, or you just want to be behind
Um,
the scenes, or both?
I think a little bit of both. I really like
Okay.
both being on camera, but also giving, there's a lot of people that on the newspaper
Yeah.
that they were super shy. I mean, I was shy myself, and I kind of was able to get myself out there. But it's awesome,
Yeah.
also getting everybody a chance to speak on the mic, and that's been a really fun
Listen,
part of it.
I love that. I love that. You're going on the right path, man, because I will tell you that when I go to speak to classes and kids and people who want to get into this business, the biggest advice I give them is something you're already doing, actually. And the biggest advice I give is be versatile. Do a little bit
Yep.
of everything. When I was getting in this business, it was either you're on radio or you're on TV or you're in print. Now everybody crosses over. And I didn't think I'd be doing video stuff and YouTube stuff. I'm 53 years old. That stuff didn't exist when I was your age and growing up, right? So I think you're already doing what you need to do, and that's really cool, man. But keep being versatile. Do all those things. You don't have to be great at everything, but you got to be able to do it all.
Yep. And another thing I'm going to keep doing is raising my hand if somebody asks to interview Sal Capaccio or anyone of the sort. So
I love
Sal,
it. I love it.
thank you very much. I'm so glad that we were able to shift from FaceTime to Zoom in quick notice, and enjoy the draft, enjoy the rest of the Sabres playoff bout, and I'm sure I'll run into you at some type of Buffalo broadcasting event in the future, hopefully.
You got it. And tell Professor Carnath I said a big hello and thank you.
I will. All right, enjoy the rest of the week. Take care. Thanks again.
Okay, you too. Thanks, Matthew.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Woo!